Hi everyone, my name is Precious Martin and I'm a student at TAMUCC. My topic today is why do you sound white? So growing up, I am Ghanaian and Liberian. So I come from a African immigrant household where we're taught to be a certain way, especially around people who grew up in America and to assimilate to American culture. So I was already brought up with that mindset and training. And then I grew up in the suburbs, and the suburbs where everyone was super a certain kind of way, to say the least. And I felt like I always had to overcompensate or assimilate just to feel like I can fit in, have friends, have a social life, especially when you're young. Growing up in the early 2000s was very difficult, especially for a black woman like myself, well, a black girl at the time, because I felt like, I wasn't represented. Like there was never any representation for me in like the certain kind of black woman I was or black girl I was at the time. It was always like very sapphire type stereotypes, big mama stereotypes, mammy, it was never positive, or like just always like the light skinned sidekick. There was never, a dark skinned girl on screen at the time before. And if we were represented, it was always someone who was um, stereotypically had the beauty standards of um, European black beauty standards, which leads me into my next slide. And here we have the Funchess TED Talk about implicit bias and just how society, especially American society, how so many, not just black culture, but even Asian culture or Middle Eastern cultures, try to overcompensate and assimilate their beauty standards to white European, Eurocentric beauty standards like straight hair or bright blue eyes. Growing up, especially in the early 2000s, anytime a cartoon character had a bad hair day, the cartoon character always had an afro or frizzy, poofy hair that I naturally had. So growing up, I always grew up thinking, is my hair not seen as beautiful? Like my hair is not, stereotypically or societally universal, like the beauty standard. The beauty standard, especially when I was growing up in the suburbs, blonde, blue hair, straight eyes. If your hair, I wanted my hair to flow in the wind. I wanted my hair to be straight and long and down to my back. I always used to ask my mom, why does my hair poof up? Like the people in the cartoons, people I watch on the TV shows, their hair's not supposed to poof up. So what's the problem? So this is a source that just supports that and just supports that whole ideology about um, negative stereotypes. And like I was saying, sapphires, mammies, those were all racist stereotypes created by the racist system we have to bring down our beauty standards and bring down the way other people look at us and view our beauty, which is very, conflicting as well, considering I always have the battle of African beauty standards and American beauty standards, African beauty standards and American beauty standards. With this source as well, society always wants to portray, especially in media, black women always have to be strong after the most turbulent um, thing in their life. And we always have to have the tough face. We always have to turn the other cheek and take the disrespect and always have these like self pity roles, which doesn't represent all black women. And yes, not just black women go through those things. A lot of women go through different tribulations and triumphs and still have to remain strong. But just as for a black woman, it's exhausting. We're tired of having that narrative of always having to be the bigger person, when in reality, we need justice. We need fair treatment and to be seen equally as others and not always put in the aggressor or bully or bad guy narrative. And a lot of these stereotypes are very unrealistic for a lot of black women. Most black women didn't even grow up in like the projects or the Lower East Side or, Houston. Some people grew up in Ghana. Some people grew up in Hawaii. Other people grew up in Japan. Other people grew up in Haiti, Liberia. I think I feel, especially being a black woman, there's these unrealistic roles and stereotypes that people expect you to be. So when I talk this way, I always used to get questions about why I sound this way. Why do I sound white? Why do you talk like a white girl? Why do you like what you like? Why don't you not listen to our music? Why do you like pop music so much? Like I always used to get things like that, or you're not black enough. And because I wasn't these unrealistic, stereotypes for black women that were harmful to Black women in general, you know? And I feel like society, especially racist society, wants to keep Black women in a box as well. This is another source that supports just having how society has narrow-minded views on beauty standards and or how a Black woman should be. A Black woman can't be in the courtroom or be proper. She has to be twerking, with gold all over, and have a certain accent speaking with AAVE, when that's not, everyone. And for those women who are like that, there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's who you are, and you're just representing where you're from. Just like if I was to grow up in Ghana, I would represent fully. I would have the accent, I would have the dialect, but I didn't. I grew up in the suburbs, so I just have the accent, I have the dialect, and that's just all. But I represent my culture and I know who I am. And I love that this source just talks about breaking barriers and how, like, us Black women should reclaim our own beauty and make our own beauty standards, because no Black woman looks alike. We're all so different, and that's what makes us beautiful. We stand out in our uniqueness, and that's what makes us shine. So, as Black women, we should redefine our beauty standards and create new narratives for our storylines in society, especially a society that doesn't want to see us win or doesn't wasn't historically meant to support us. Here are my references, and thank you for listening to my TED Talk.